The doctors must wash their hands.
Wash their hands? They have tons of procedures a day. They have no time.
Exactly. Because of those unwashed hands, the babies are dying. Are you saying that we are the ones killing the mothers?
Get him out!
You are killing them!
He was right. They sent him to an asylum. He died there 14 days later. Vienna, 1847. A maternity ward. Women walk in pregnant and excited. Some of them walk out in coffins. Not from the birth, from something that happens after. A fever grabs them, their bodies swell, and within days they're gone. The staff call it childbed fever, like it's weather. Like it just happens. Nobody asks why, until one man does, and what he finds is the kind of detail that should come with a warning label. Here's the part that breaks your brain a little. In that same hospital, there are two wards. One staffed by doctors, one staffed by midwives. The doctor's ward kills women at almost 10 times the rate. 10 times. So naturally, word gets out, and pregnant women in Vienna start doing something insane. They beg to be moved to the midwife's ward. Some of them, when they can't get transferred, just give birth in the street. On the cobblestones. In public. Because the street is statistically safer than the hospital. Let that sit for a second. 19th century Vienna had figured out that walking into a hospital could be more dangerous than walking into traffic. And here's the part that should genuinely chill you. Nobody in charge thought this was suspicious. Hospital administrators looked at women giving birth on cobblestones to avoid their own building and concluded nothing. No investigation. No alarm bells. Just paperwork, shrugged shoulders, and another funeral scheduled for next week. Sometimes the scariest thing about a horror story isn't the monster. It's how calmly everyone keeps walking past it. Enter Ignaz Semmelweis. Young doctor, obsessive personality, the kind of guy who reads spreadsheets for fun before spreadsheets exist. He starts tracking everything. Which doctor delivered which baby? Who survived? Who didn't? And he notices something that nobody else bothered to notice, because nobody else thought it mattered. The doctors on the deadly ward are the same doctors who spend their mornings dissecting corpses. They walk straight from the autopsy table to the delivery room. No hand washing, no change of clothes. Just dead body, then living one, then dead one again. The doctors weren't healers that day. They were unknowing couriers. And the package they were delivering was death itself, one handshake at a time. So Semmelweis does something wild for the era.
The doctors must wash their hands.
Orders every doctor to wash their hands in a chlorine solution before touching a patient. Not because he understands bacteria, that word barely exists yet. He just has a hunch. A horrifying, brilliant hunch. And the mortality rate drops. Not by 10%, not by 30, by almost 90%. 90. From soap and chlorine. You'd think they'd throw the man a parade. They didn't. They humiliated him instead. Because here's the thing about humans. We will accept almost any inconvenience except the idea that we personally are the problem. Telling 1840s doctors that their own unwashed hands were killing mothers wasn't medicine to them, it was an insult to their entire identity.
Because of those unwashed hands, the babies are dying. Are you saying we are the ones killing the mothers and the babies?
These were respected, educated men, gentlemen, and gentlemen, apparently, don't carry death on their fingertips.
Ridiculous! Ridiculous! You must listen to me!
So instead of thanking Semmelweis, the medical establishment mocked him, isolated him, and eventually had him committed to an asylum, where he died ironically, tragically, almost too perfectly from an infected wound. The man who discovered that infection spreads through unwashed contact died from an infection that spread through contact. The universe has a sense of humor, and it is not a kind one. And here's the detail that should really keep you up tonight. He was right the entire time he was being dragged into that asylum. Every doctor who laughed at him, every colleague who called him paranoid or unstable, was, statistically speaking, more dangerous to a pregnant woman than the lime-scented chlorine bucket they refused to use. Semmelweis wasn't losing his mind. He was simply the only sane person in a room full of confident men accidentally committing manslaughter with good penmanship and a medical degree. But here's where the story stops being history and starts being about you. This whole tragedy isn't really about hospitals. It's about something already living inside you right now, way older than Vienna, older than soap, older than language itself. It's called disgust. And it didn't start as an emotion. It started as a weapon. Decades after Semmelweis died, two more names finish what he started. Louis Pasteur, who proved invisible organisms could spoil your wine and infect your wound with equal indifference, and Joseph Lister, who took that idea into the operating room. Before Lister, surgeons wore the same blood-crusted coat for years, like it was a badge of experience instead of a biohazard. Clean coats were for amateurs. A dirty coat meant you'd performed a lot of surgeries survived by the patient or not. Nobody specified that part on the resume. Lister introduced antiseptic spray, infection rates plummeted, and slowly, painfully, the world accepted what Semmelweis had already proven decades earlier for free. Being early is apparently the same as being wrong, right up until it isn't. And then suddenly everyone acts like they believed it the whole time. The medical world basically did to Semmelweis what every group chat does to the friend who calls something a scam 2 years before everyone else figures it out. Mocked first, credited never, vindicated only after he's no longer around to enjoy it. Now here's where the disgust weapon actually gets loaded. Evolutionary psychologist Valerie Curtis studied this for years and came to a conclusion that should mildly unsettle you. Disgust isn't random. It's a targeting system. Think about what actually grosses you out: a rotting meat, pus, vomit, decay, the smell of something gone wrong. None of that is a coincidence. Every single trigger lines up almost perfectly with a historical source of infection. Your ancestor who looked at a rotting carcass and thought, absolutely not, lived longer than the ancestor who thought dinner. Disgust was never about manners. It was a survival algorithm wearing a stomach-turning disguise. And it gets weirder. Curtis tested this across completely different cultures, different continents, different languages, and the disgust hierarchy stayed almost identical. A wound oozing pus is revolting in London, New York, and Austria for exactly the same reasons. That's not culture. That's code. Ancient, biological, pre-installed code, running quietly in the background of every human being who has ever lived, including the toddler currently yanking their hand back from something slimy before they even know the word germ exists. Nobody taught that kid to recoil. The recoil came factory installed. Here's a fun fact that should make you slightly uncomfortable next time you eat a meal in front of someone. Disgust is also weirdly cheap, biologically speaking. Mounting a real immune response, fevers, inflammation, your body waging actual war against an infection, costs enormous energy and takes days. Flinching away from a smell costs almost nothing and happens instantly. Evolution, ever the bargain hunter, figured out that the cheapest way to win a war against germs is to simply never show up to the battlefield. Avoidance is the original budget healthcare plan. So what does any of this have to do with you? Tonight, washing your hands without thinking? Everything. Because the habit you perform on autopilot, 11 seconds, soap, water, done, isn't just a hygiene rule your parents drilled into you. It's the final, automated stage of a war that started with rotting meat on some prehistoric plain, escalated in a Viennese maternity ward, got formalized by a man who died for being right too early, and ended up wired so deep into your nervous system that you no longer experience it as a decision. It's not a habit. It's a reflex with a 1,000-generation backstory. But, and this is the part that should genuinely bother you, this ancient alarm system has a glitch. A serious one. It doesn't actually know the difference between a corpse and a stranger who simply looks or sounds unfamiliar to you. The same wiring that kept your ancestors alive has, throughout history, also been hijacked to justify discrimination against outsiders, the sick, the poor, anyone who triggers that ancient different equals dangerous alarm. The exact same reflex that saves your life in a hospital can quietly curdle into prejudice in a conversation. And most people never notice the switch happening, because the alarm feels identical either way. A loaded weapon doesn't come with a note explaining when you're allowed to fire it. Here's the darkly funny part. The instinct that's currently telling you not to eat that questionable chicken from the back of the fridge is the exact same software running when someone feels an inexplicable wave of unease around a person who simply prays differently, eats differently, or talks differently than they do. Same circuit, same chemical signature. The only difference is the target. Your brain doesn't file moral panic and food poisoning prevention under separate folders. As far as your nervous system is concerned, they're the same email, just forwarded to a different department. So next time you catch yourself recoiling from something that isn't actually a threat, an accent, a food, a stranger, a different way of living, ask yourself a question almost nobody asks in the moment. Is this disgust protecting me? Or is this disgust just bored and looking for a target? Psychologist Paul Rozin, one of the first scientists to study disgust seriously, pointed out that humans are unique in one specific way. We're the only species that can catch our own instinct in the act and override it. A dog doesn't pause mid-flinch to interrogate itself. You can. That might be the most underrated superpower you own, and you've probably never once given yourself credit for using it. There's a strange kind of justice in how this story ends. Semmelweis died believing he'd failed completely. He never lived to hear the word germ used the way we use it now. He never got the parade, the statue, the textbook chapter written with the respect he deserved while he was alive to read it. But every single time a surgeon scrubs in before an operation, every time you absent-mindedly lather soap under hot water while thinking about literally anything else, his theory wins again. Quietly, invisibly, billions of times a day, across the entire planet, with absolutely zero credit given out loud. Tonight, when you wash your hands without thinking about any of this, understand what you're actually doing. You're not following a rule someone handed you. You're executing code written by survival itself, debugged by one furious, ridiculed doctor who paid for being correct with his sanity and ultimately his life, and finally run successfully by you, 11 seconds at a time, every single day, without applause. Somewhere underneath the soap and the warm water, a man who died believing himself a failure is, in this exact moment, being proven right all over again. He'd probably find that hilarious. Or infuriating. Possibly both. He's not here to clarify.